Hey there, hi there, ho there. Welcome in to another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. And both here and present, accounted for, and all of that at Quaker Steak and Lube in State College. Terrific place to come on down and watch the final weekend of the regular season in the NFL. Coming up this weekend, the national championship game a week from last night, and any other sporting events, the occasional NHL game that's still being allowed to be played, NBA action if that's your interest, or college hoops, which the beloved Nets got a big win over Indiana after the long layoff. Impressive in a couple of different fronts, Goon, to me, that win. Most notably after, again, that type of a layoff to be able to come out and grind out a tough victory, I think is pretty significant for the program and for, first-year head coach Micah Shrewsbury.
Yeah, they were well-rested. There's no doubt about that. But, we talked about football, they were. I know Penn State's down right now, football. Okay, we said it last week that we're still a name brand. Arkansas still playing Penn State in a bowl game is still holds some water. So Penn State basketball beating Indiana. Indiana's not lighting people on fire right now, but it is still Indiana.
Brand name.
It is a brand name, a blue blood school in the NCAA basketball world, and it was a hell of a win and a great win for Shrewsbury. First Big Ten win, right?
Yep.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
And they compete, and I like the way they're playing. They have a nice little inside-outside. They got some strength in the inside, and they got some guys on the outside. It's a nice little combination they're working with.
Yep. Hockey, some mixed results over the New Year's weekend. We'll see. These next couple of months, obviously, will tell the story of this season and trying to kind of build the foundation here moving forward to bigger and better things that I think are around the corner for that program. And we'll see how some things develop. Obviously, everybody is watching with interest right now to see how everything plays out with COVID and the various university protocols that are now in place across the country. And this next month to 6 weeks, I think, is just going to be very trying for coaches, fans, and players alike as we once again try to navigate our way through
going on around here.
All of this. Yep.
A lot of hot routes, a lot of audibles being called, and many, many multiple different sports. Honest to God, Jeff, I got to say it. I mean, I'm absolutely amazed that Penn State's actually having in-session classes next week.
Yeah.
Last time we were together, I was thinking, me and Chris were talking, like, there's no way.
I'm very, very happy that they are. And I realize the concerns, and I share some of the concerns that are out there. But I just think at some point, yes, you've got to be able to, with the vaccines available, with all of the treatments that are available now for young, healthy people, again, that either have the vaccine or the antibodies, you ought to be able to navigate this at this point.
Yeah, young and in shape is what I am, Ironhead. So
obviously,
the two of us are just
stating
the
obvious.
The two of us are just sitting here as young men, the top of physical fitness.
Exactly right.
Mentally, physically, we're there. We're all there. So, yeah, it is, like I said, a lot of audibles being played, a lot of people being thrown here, a lot of hot routes being kicked up out there. What sport's going to be played? I mean, I didn't travel anywhere other than my in-laws' house for the week, a couple weeks there.
Yeah.
But can you imagine having to go? I mean, one is, I go back to the bowl situation with UCLA and NC State. Could you imagine? You leave Raleigh or wherever you are in North Carolina or as an NC State fan, head out to California, pay for the hotel for 4 days, get your tickets, get your food, your drinks, and this and that, and then 3 hours before the game they cancel it. I mean, just it has to be so frustrating for them.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure UCLA wasn't happy about it. I mean, their fans were they were traveling too, but just so many different things that have gone on in the last, year and a half, really. And, what you just said is true. It's, we're finally sitting there, we're going to fight it and defend it, defend against it, do what we got to do. And, eventually you got to stand up to it.
Yeah, a couple of things. And I obviously will get into the Steelers game last night and the send-off for Big Ben. But did want to just touch quickly going back to the college football playoffs and the title game. We'll talk more about that, I think, on Thursday, the matchup here with Alabama and Georgia. But the one thing that I'm seeing a good bit of on social media and even in columns and stuff from some sports writers is that, what has clearly shown up now is there is such a wide gulf between the SEC and the other conferences. And allow me just for a moment to to offer a differing opinion. What there is a wide gulf between Alabama and Georgia this season and everybody else.
Yep.
And if you look at the overall record of the SEC, the conference as a whole, I think, is more comparable to the years that Clemson was dominating the ACC. And no, I don't think the SEC is as bad as the ACC was in those years. But to me, that's a better comparison. I mean, nobody was saying, oh, Clemson won the national title and destroyed everybody beat everybody, including Alabama. That shows you the ACC is just superior to every other conference. Everybody knew that it's Clemson. Listen, Mississippi has a very good team, and horrible what happened with the quarterback, although, I think in the overall scheme of things, I'm not sure that his draft stock is going to be hurt significantly and possibly not even at all. So I think, exactly. And I will get back to that discussion on the injuries in the bowl games and everything again, too. But the SEC as a whole, yes, Alabama and Georgia. And listen, I still think, and I mean, Georgia obviously overwhelmed Michigan. I still think Michigan is one of the top 5 teams anyways in the country, and maybe the third best team in the country. Might have been exactly where it should have been. I just think Georgia was dialed in, and I think Georgia, as it was all season long, with the exception of the SEC championship game against Alabama, was, again, just better than anybody else out there. But this isn't a conference thing. This is a program or two. And again, Alabama seemingly every year is one of those 2 or 3 programs that is separating itself. And then Clemson for many years has been one of the other ones. And then different years, Ohio State, the first year was obviously a terrific program as well. But I mean, this is, again, it's Alabama over the last, 6-7 years. It's Alabama, Clemson up at the top, Georgia, Oklahoma, Notre Dame. I'm missing somebody probably there, and then there's a drop off to that next group after that. But this isn't an S. Again, Alabama and Georgia, those 2 programs are exceptional, and yes, they are both from the SEC. But this is not speaking to the quality of the SEC as a whole. And I'm not sitting here telling you that the SEC stinks, but the SEC as a whole, I think the Big Ten, top to bottom, is still every bit as good, if not better, than the SEC. I do think, obviously, no question this year, that the top of the SEC is better than the top of anywhere else. But that isn't solely how you need to view the overall strength of a conference. Again, if you did, then the ACC, you would have to say, was right there with the SEC over the last 6 years. And there's nobody, even the most ardent ACC fan, is not believing that one.
I mean, it's the power of the conferences. And, we're up here to, at the Loop here, and you got the Ohio State-Utah game. And, I mean, The power of the conference is it was really relevant. I mean, the Pac-12 just this is the best they offered, and they wilted in the end. So you got to give Ohio State a lot of credit, but it's not the SEC that is. You're right. It's Georgia, Alabama. Just like 2 years ago, it was Clemson, Alabama. But you're saying it perfectly, and that doesn't mean the ACC was much better than every other conference because Clemson was number one. No, absolutely not. They were horrible. So, I think it is right that the top two teams are playing in the national title game.
Yeah.
It just happens that they're in the same conference, and it seems to happen like it's a lot.
And I also, I do think Cincinnati, because there's been some, that shows you that Cincinnati. I thought Cincinnati was very, I don't think. If you watch the game, Cincinnati was very competitive for most of three quarters. And again, it's an Alabama and a Georgia team that have separated themselves from everybody else. But I don't think that the fact that Michigan or Cincinnati got blown out final score wise means that those two teams shouldn't have been there. Who else? Because there's nobody else that I think would have been more representative in either of those games. I just think right now Alabama and Georgia are playing at that level, and I think Georgia. Again, we'll talk more about it on Thursday, but I think Georgia's got a whole lot riding on this game. Obviously the championship, but I think from a program standpoint, this is a critical juncture for Georgia in terms of trying to take that next step and become elite, to use terminology we've heard from other coaches and other programs.
Said it for 3 years, and that is when it comes to wrestling, the head-to-head. Alabama knows they could beat Clemson.
Yeah.
And I always think it's a lot harder for Alabama to get jacked up for Georgia than it is for Georgia to be jacked up to play Alabama because they deserve – they feel as if they're owed. They got a second shot. Alabama's going to go into that saying, you know what, it's Georgia. We beat the tar out of them before. We'll beat them again and this and that. And that's scary. So,
although Saban does have an ability to, because they will be underdogs again, which is interesting. But it's
that rat poison he talks about.
Yep, and it's exactly what Nick Saban would want going into that game.
Did you see the rat poison analogy he had?
Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely hilarious, and it's so perfectly spot on.
Yeah. For a Steelers fan, a diehard Steelers fan, I will say last night's Monday night coverage was thoroughly satisfying and wonderful. It was fun watching a lot of the clips. I still, en route to the first Super Bowl, that tackle after Bettis's fumble, the Big Ben had, that is probably, and obviously he had some great throws. I mean, the touchdown pass to Santonio Holmes, and you go through a long list, and he's had many great plays. That play, to me, though, will forever be the defining moment for me of Big Ben's career, because it was a quarterback that was a football player, right? And made a mistake and came back and made a play that if he doesn't, the Steelers lose that game, and there is no first Super Bowl for the Steelers that season. First for Big Ben and last for Jerome Bettis. I mean, that does not happen without him not giving up on the play after throwing.
After
the fumble, yes.
The happiest man in the world was Jerome Bettis.
Oh, no question. To this day, legacy. He tells you. To this day, he tells you.
He's not. There's no 36 bus restaurant in Pittsburgh if he doesn't make that tackle.
Yeah.
Two stories. The guy he tackled from the Colts was the guy who was stabbed in his leg that morning by his girlfriend/fiance. If he'd not been shanked, could he have broken that tackle? Had there not been a prison shanking going on the field before the game, could he have made that tackle? And then you said the Stontonio touchdown catch.
Yeah.
You know what that was? John Madden's last Super Bowl call.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. The whole Madden thing was absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
The way the whole NFL handled it. And then I had this question. And we'll get back to your Steelers here in a second. I got a question.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that you know that worked for all 4 major networks at one point or another? Even ESPN was added in there, but I wouldn't call them a major network because they're more cable. But he worked for all 4, NBC, ABC, at one point or another. There has to be nobody else who's really done that.
Not sure about that.
That's a pretty cool. I mean, it was wow, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
And it was true. CBS, Fox, ABC, ESPN, and he did at NBC, right?
I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look at that. I don't know.
Wow. But I mean, it was a great life lived, and I loved his Hall of Fame speech that day when he said, I haven't worked a day in my life. I've never worked a day in my life. I do what I love. So
yeah.
But as an impartial guy who's not a Roethlisberger fan, the guy is pretty damn good. Has been for a long time. Tough dude.
Well, what he did, I don't think there was anybody tougher in his generation on the football field, and I don't think there's another quarterback. And listen, there are other quarterbacks that obviously have had better careers, and you might say would be better in the clutch, although Ben was pretty darn tough in the clutch. You go back and look at the game-winning drives that he engineered and some of the throws he made. But the thing that about him is he was just so unique in his ability to extend plays and to be able to shake off would-be tacklers and get away from would-be sacks and create something big. And it was interesting as they were talking throughout the night about the relationship between the fans and Ben in this case, but athletes in general. I think one of the things that Steelers fans appreciate, and listen, we don't know, and I posted something to a group of friends this morning that it appears, right, that he has grown up considerably. Now, I have no idea what's actually happening away from the field. I don't know what Big Ben actually does. What it seems like he does, right? And what you'd like to believe is that he's going home and being a good family man. And, he says he found God. And, it was a wonderful image with his family last night. And I think one of the reasons that fans connect is at least the belief that this guy really has grown and made some mistakes. How horrific as a young man will be probably forever debated. And again, I wasn't at the present in any of those situations, so I don't know with any certainty. But I do know he was putting himself in bad spots. You go back to the motorcycle accident, just not great decision making, but also understandable, right? I mean, if you are a young kid who has been thrust into the spotlight and you have the world at your fingertips, and part of being a great athlete is that feeling of invincibility, right? I mean, to be successful in a sport like football, you have to have that belief while you're out there, at the very least, that I'm magic. Like you cannot stop me. And that carried over, I think, too much into his personal life, but it at least seems like he grew from it. And I think, his kind of recommitment to the team and organization and teammates ahead of the second Super Bowl victory over the Seahawks, I think was a big deal. And I think that I just think overall his growth as a person, along with obviously he needed to be a terrific player and a franchise-defining quarterback, and I don't think there's any question that at the end of the day, he's the greatest quarterback the Steelers have had, and he's one of the all-time greats in the sport. And again, his style was unique. There's just nobody else that could match what he did the way he did it.
Yeah, I mean, there's only other person I can think about who not fixed their reputation, but some incidents off the field, their reputation were tarnished, and that was Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
It was very similar, situations and stuff like that. But and in the end, they were forgiven because they did change, and they ended up, they didn't act like that anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think Ben really, it was a hell of a wake-up call for him. You think it would have happened the first time, but it happened the second time. It is what it is. But yes, his transformation to a guy 15 years ago who I couldn't stand to a guy last night who, you could always trust in the fourth quarter. I mean, you can, you watch, I'm watching Brady on Sunday afternoon, going down the field and just absolutely just torching. I mean, I know it's the Jets, but it looked like he was throwing a 7-on-7 game to end that game. So, what he did, with the love affair with the city and stuff like that, is he understood from the start what the Pittsburgh fan was like. And me and Booch were talking before about Miles Sanders down in Philadelphia making a comment about the fans a couple weeks ago about booing. And it's like, don't go there, man. Don't challenge the fans. And then, the next time he actually made a tweet, he actually tried to, bring the fans back into him. And it's like, okay, you're trying too hard right now.
Yeah.
But Roethlisberger knew the Pittsburgh people, being so close from in the Ohio area, he understood what the people wanted. And the best, let me think now, how do I say this? I guess, remember Jeremy Kapanos, the punter for Penn State?
Yeah.
He kicked for the Steelers for a year or two.
Yeah.
And he came back when I was working in the weight room, and he was talking the story. And he was, maybe I wasn't working, but whatever. He was telling a story, even the guys in the locker room, well, I think that Jeremy was getting dressed for, a second half or whatever. And they're like, man, we're getting crap kicked out of us and that. And I think one of the vets was like, shut up, don't worry about it. As long as he's still playing, pointing at Roethlisberger, he said, as long as he is still playing in this game, we got a chance because he ain't going to give up. And I was like, damn, man, that's the kind of respect he had from, the fans, yes, but he had the respect from inside the locker room like that.
Yeah. And
that's pretty damn awesome.
Well, and
you got to earn that. You're not given that. You earn that.
And he was a guy, it's interesting because, on the other side, there's been all of this talk about Baker Mayfield. And I am a little surprised with how much the media seems to have turned on him. And it's almost like they're just throwing away the injury component. And I get that. And I'm not just talking about Baker's injury. That is a banged up football team. This is not the same team literally that it was last year at the end of the year, just in terms of the who's there, the physical presence of the individuals. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not sitting here telling you Mayfield's on his way to a Hall of Fame career. I have no idea what the future holds for him, but I am surprised how quickly fans and media alike seem to just completely dismiss his accomplishments of a year ago and are also dismissing the injury and the role that it has played in his season. Now
today he's not playing this week. He's getting surgery this week.
Yeah. And again, to me, if you're the Browns, you saw what this guy did last year. And again, it wasn't all him. And I'm not sitting here telling you that he's a guy, Ben Roethlisberger could win you games, did win the Steelers games almost single-handedly. Yeah. I don't think Baker Mayfield is that type of quarterback, but I don't think the Browns, when they're healthy, need him to be that type of quarterback, right? They need him to be the complementary piece. Now he needs to be better with his decision-making, but again, I think some of the decision-making this year came from the injury and trying to compensate or overcompensate for some of the deficiencies that he felt he had. So again, we'll see what the future holds for him. But Roethlisberger was, again, just very unique, very special. And I do think, to go 18 seasons in the NFL without having a losing season, I don't care who you are. And that's not all on Big Ben. Again, sure. The coaching obviously comes into play there. And you have to have teammates that are out there
that's where I'm gonna go
getting the job done. But, outside of Tom Brady, and Brady just rewrites everything, right? I mean, this is a guy one of the stats that I saw earlier this year is that this guy goes to the Super Bowl more often than Steph Curry hits the three-pointer. His percentage of going to the Super Bowl is higher than Steph Curry's three-point percentage. Let that sink in for a second.
He's been a 10.
Yeah, let that sink in. It's absurd.
Okay,
but by any other comparison, Big Ben and the Steelers' consistency with him as a quarterback is
he was
virtually
successful
unmatched
this year when his offensive line was playing well. And I'm going to go with the offensive line. He always was much better when he had a consistently good offensive line and a good run game.
Sure,
you know what I mean. Anybody is. Case in point, Baker Mayfield. You take Jack Plunkett out of that right tackle for the Browns.
Yeah,
I mean T.J. Watt does not have 4 sacks in the game last night versus Conklin. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Baker was just getting absolutely destroyed all year offensive line-wise, and they had the COVID. They had so many guys on COVID getting hurt and not playing and this and that. So, I mean, I understand. So, I am a little bit alarmed at how quick they've turned on Baker, but that could be on Baker because Baker's face is on television so much with the commercials and stuff like that. So, but, you take the offensive line, I'll take it. And, it just changes the complexion of the game. And the Steelers have always had good offensive lines. And when they didn't, Ben struggled. Because, he can win games, but he cannot win games on his back. And he has proved that over and over. And as long as you keep him on the field. But there's also something that the great quarterbacks have. And that is they have that, like that sixth sense in the back of their head where they can see. Like, and then just some quarterbacks get so jumpy back in the pocket. You got Myles Garrett coming around the corner, and that's your blind side. Ben Roethlisberger could not see Myles Garrett. He made a play last night where he just stepped up about, a half a foot. And Garrett, he knew that and this is to his back, he doesn't know it's there. He knows that his left tackle has Garrett that much farther. He just got to move up 1/2 a foot. Brady has the same thing. It's guys who have happy feet. They have that, they have pocket presence, and I've never seen, including Brady, including Manning, including Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers, and I don't, never watched Johnny Unitas, but the pocket presence that Ben Roethlisberger has, and that is the best thing I think that he has or had, in my opinion. And the other thing I saw today, which just absolutely blows my effing mind, is that Ben Roethlisberger played 2 games in his NFL career. That's 18 seasons. He played 2 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers where they were mathematically out of the playoffs. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and, listen, the Steelers are in a tough spot going into this weekend. There's a couple of things I want to touch on. One, again, they need to obviously beat the Ravens on Sunday, and then have the Colts lose to the Jaguars, which seems like the most difficult part of the scenario that the Steelers need to play out, and then they just need the Raiders and Chargers to not tie.
That's the best one, non-tie.
Yeah, which seems.
But wouldn't
like
that
a
be
pretty
great
good bet.
If Jacksonville wins?
Oh, it would be. You talk about the ultimate. Yeah, watch Jacksonville win like 49-0. Just blow the Colts' doors off. Steelers win big this game, and watch the teams exchange missed field goals in the final 2 minutes of overtime.
That is hilarious
to wrap things up in the AFC, but.
Now, what are the Colts? Do the Colts need the win, right? Because me and Booch were talking before. We're pretty sure that they're not in.
Yeah, I think that's true. So the Steelers need the Jagoffs from Jacksonville to win to be able to get into the playoffs. And listen, I mean, I'm as diehard as anybody, and I tend to be an optimist, but the Steelers are not going to the Super Bowl, even if they get into the playoffs, right? Like, this team is just not built right now to make that type of
if they were in an all-Pennsylvania Super Bowl, because the Eagles made the playoffs. I don't know if you knew this.
I'll tell you what. The night game I'm liking their chances right now against the Cowboys on Saturday.
But I don't think
that
it
is going to be
matters.
interesting.
I mean, they're either going to be the 7 or 6 seed, right, Booch? So it's either going to have a trip to Tampa or a trip to L.A.
Yeah, well, and again, the Steelers are in the same boat. Listen, I want to see them get there and get one more opportunity for Roethlisberger to be in the playoffs and to close this thing out. A couple of things about that. Moving forward, because I'm still reading a lot of stuff speculating on where the landing spot for Big Ben will be. And I'm even more convinced now after watching this, and he's retiring. Like the more just watching him last night, and again, I get it that there are all kinds of fans. I mean, Patriots fans couldn't have envisioned Tom Brady wearing any other uniform, and I don't deny that that's part of where my my so-called analysis is coming from. But I'm just reading through what everything Ben is saying right now, and Ben Roethlisberger is talking about the fans, and this is home, and how important family is. This guy, Tom Brady is still in pretty good shape, and I'm talking about. I mean, obviously he's in terrific physical shape, but I'm saying his body has and he's certainly taken punishment over the years. But I mean, Ben, there were years where that offensive line was not effective, and he just willed himself through games and seasons and victories with just his size and his ability to break, again, tackles or sacks. But it does take a toll on you. And I think both mentally and physically, he's done with the sport. And I think he wants to just go out as a Steeler, as one of those guys that only played for one organization. And again, I don't know Big Ben. Maybe I'm reading way more into this, but just watching the way he was reacting last night, I don't think this was a farewell to Pittsburgh. I think this was a farewell to football.
I'm on board with that because Hines Ward, Polamalu, they could have played anywhere else, and it was like the Steelers didn't re-sign them, and it was just like they felt like they didn't want to go anywhere else. And they could have gone. They could have gone the Joe Namath, Johnny Unitas, Franco Harris route.
Yeah,
and I always hated that. I really, really did. I hated when Brian Dawkins was a Bronco. And I know he had some successful years there, but I just didn't like it. Yeah,
it's hard when you see for the fan, but I also get it why the players, and to see, I mean, Tom Brady fade into oblivion after leaving the Patriots. I mean, it's tough to see an athlete trying to hang on too long. I would not rule out them winning another championship. By the way, I know that receiving core is depleted, and we'll talk about that too. With Bruce Arians said he's no longer a Buck, but he's still a Buck as we sit here this afternoon. So
I told you my theory before the show, and that is I just think that the Bucks. I mean, yes, they do need AB.
I mean, if they were truly, if it was definitive, why would he not have been released yesterday?
Yes. Yeah, if it truly, I mean, I really think that there was an issue, a misunderstanding between Arians and AB and the doctor said, because AB said his ankle was hurt, he didn't want to play. Arians wanted him out there, and then people are throwing out, he has this many bonuses. Why wouldn't he want to play? If he was hurt, he ain't going to play. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So if it was a question of, hey, I'm injured, I'm not going to go back into this game, then the doctor needs to let Bruce Arians know that, and not let Arians, who's a known hothead, is going to flip out and give AB some crap, and AB ain't going to take that. He's going to do what AB does, and that's go completely insane and run off the field and pom-poms half-naked. So I don't know. Unless the Buccaneers are going to say, you know what, it's a minimum contract, keep him on the team, pay him. We won't give anybody else. I mean, you don't think the Steelers are looking at Antonio Brown right now? Losing Gallup the other day to an ACL injury? You don't think that AB would just ride his little white horse in the Dallas and go on a playoff run with those guys? I mean, I don't know what's going on. Are the Buccaneers holding on to him so no one else gets him? Or is something in the works that he's going to stay with the Buccaneers? Crazy, but a lot of stuff going on in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I just finishing up with the Steelers and the quarterback situation. So, again, I'm convinced that Big Ben, after at most 2 more games, we'll just call it a career and be done. What is then interesting to me is, all right, what do the Steelers do and where do they go? And, the question from within the organization, I think, is, do we truly believe that we could be a Super Bowl champion next season with the right quarterback? Or do we think, listen, this is still a couple of years off from being able to form that type of a team? And I think depending on the answer to that, and I could make the argument either way, to be honest with you. Watching Harris run last night, and I think this offensive line has gotten better. I don't think it is a great or, we're getting into the neighborhood of being a good offensive line, but it's not there yet. But, I mean, Harris, that dude, if he runs the rest of his career the way he ran in that matchup last night, look out, man, because he's going to be joining the other Harris in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was on fire last night, and it was fun, again, as a Steelers fan, to watch. And obviously with TJ Watts and I mean, you can put the scenario together where, yep, this is a Super Bowl contending team. And again, I could very easily turn around and say, well, no, it's not, because that defense is still struggles against the run. That offensive line isn't where it needs to be yet to be that type of a team. So, I think internally they have to answer that question, because if you believe that you are, I mean, and truly believe that, yes, man, you get us the right quarterback, with a healthy Juju Smith-Schuster next year, and Deontay and the whole group. I mean, that receiving core, I think, is very attractive for any quarterback out there. So do you go the trade route and listen, yeah, let's go all in on trying to get Derek Carr would be at the top of my wish list. Russell Wilson would be, Baker, pretty high up there. Or do you say, listen, we just need a serviceable, good quarterback and go a Jameis Winston route, or, one of the free agents, and the free agents just they're not that are available this year are not the guys that are franchise quarterbacks, right?
That's not the Steelers' MO, though.
And so, well, it hasn't been. But again, right, if you're looking at it again and you're saying, listen, yeah, we get the right quarterback, we're there, and then you spend the next couple of years, listen, we got to find the next guy. But I don't think anybody, and I'd be happy with Kenny Pickett, but Kenny Pickett, I don't think any of the draft picks out there this year are guys that are going to come in and be Super Bowl winning quarterbacks next year, no matter on any squad. And so I think if you do think Kenny Pickett's your future, I still don't. Again, if you think you can win the Super Bowl next year, to me, you still have to go out and get the quarterback that can do it now, and let Kenny Pickett, if you're able to get him, which is a big if, or whoever you settle on in the next couple of drafts is the guy that you think can be your next franchise quarterback, but let them have a year or two to develop under, again, whoever it may be. I think this is going to be, very, very different, potentially a very different scenario playing out for the Steelers, because, that is not the history of the organization, but again, the circumstances are unique to me this time around, because I do think a healthy Steelers team next year with the right quarterback is a really dangerous team. But I also think they're in a really tough division, even with the right quarterback, whoever you think the right quarterback is. Again, I am really impressed with the Bengals and with Burrow, and not just with the Kansas City win. I don't know that Cincinnati's ready yet to go out and win a Super Bowl or even more than a playoff game. They're still inconsistent there, but man, that team that organization, I think, is building to something pretty special, and I do think they have the quarterback that can do it. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is, when he's healthy, is an extremely dangerous quarterback, and the Ravens are just a great organization. And again, I think the Browns will have a bounce-back season next year, which means, again, that the Steelers, even with the right quarterback, I think are going to have a difficult time navigating just that division, let alone the rest of the AFC, where you have the resurgent Patriots, the Kansas City Chiefs, who aren't going anywhere, and and a bunch of other teams that I think are going to be in the mix. I think the Miami Dolphins are going to be dangerous again next season. We'll see if the Raiders can figure things out, if Derek Carr stays there, and all of that. I mean, there's a lot of intriguing scenarios in the NFL and in the AFC. Heading into next season, and it's I'm just really curious to see what the Steelers ultimately do and what the approach is here. If they just decide, yep, we're building for the future, and again, if Kenny Pickett's available, that might be the guy that can eventually get you there. But I just don't see him as being the guy that over the next year or two is going to get you where you need to be.
No, not at all. I mean, you can't sit there and you're going to waste Juju Williams and Claypool's prime years by trying to get a Kenny Pickett type of guy ready to go. I mean, that might be a 2-year process. I mean,
that's what my guess is.
It's a very, very. You think that they would sacrifice next season to get the next guy ready? I mean,
yeah, I
know that's the Steelers thing to do. I get it; they have their ways.
I don't think so. I think in this case, because of the talent that they have accumulated on both sides of the ball, to me, this feels like a unique opportunity and a unique situation for the Steelers to vary from their norm and say, listen, we can go get, Aaron Rodgers is being floated this morning.
Right, and the unicorn's Aaron Rodgers, but I think that the guy who would really, really fit in there with still some tread on his tires will be Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, my Lord.
Although Aaron Rodgers, can you imagine a guy playing for the Packers and the Steelers? I mean, two of the strongest fan bases in the NFL.
Your fan base.
Maybe the two best fan bases in terms of traveling and appearing in opposing stadiums, along with the Cowboys. I don't know. That would be pretty wild to see that scenario play out.
I just don't see Rodgers and Tomlin and. I can't see Rodgers coming in and being told this is the Steelers' way, and Rodgers going to think, no, this is the Aaron Rodgers way, right?
I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers,
first of all, he leaves Green Bay. Green Bay should be kicked out of the league for letting him go because the guy is unbelievable.
He is unreal, and I don't know. It feels to me right now like the Green Bay is the team to beat. Not exactly a hot take, I understand, with the best record in the league and with the guy that is likely going to win the MVP as your quarterback. But I do think that they are the team to beat again this year. And what an amazing story that's going to be if after the offseason that they had, Aaron Rodgers leads them to another Super Bowl this year.
He'd play again. I think he would just say, I'm done. Hang it up.
I don't know, because I think, I don't think in his case that is what would happen. But
Jeopardy's calling, man.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how that.
But the stat they showed Sunday night about Aaron Rodgers having less than four interceptions with 500 pass attempts, and that's the fourth time he's done it in his career.
Yeah.
And how many players have done it before him? 0, and he's done it 4 times.
Yeah.
Like, that's naming awards effort type of guy.
Yeah. No, his decision making is
unbelievable.
Is crazy good, and he is just one of those guys that really does seemingly never make the big mistake, whether it's a fumble or a turnover or even taking a sack, right? Like he he gets rid of the ball. Right? I mean, he is fine with throwing it away and living to play another day. And yeah, he just has obviously a lot of terrific natural ability, but he also has just an uncanny sense of where to go and what to do. I mean, it's just it's amazing to see him perform as consistently as he does.
Yeah, the fact that they don't have Bucciari, whatever his name is, out there at left tackle, Tattieri, Buccignani, whatever. The Iranians, the Italians, they all run together, But the fact that he's not out there and they have a backup out there who's doing it, he has the faith in that kid.
Yeah.
And that kid's playing his tail off right now. He has his faults, and you can see it in Rodgers' eyes where he gets frustrated by it. But if you give a guy like that the time and you give him some of those players that he has catching the ball, I mean, it's pretty damn. They're impressive. But they were just as impressive last year, and they didn't show up against the Buccaneers in the NFC title game. And, so he needs to get past over the Tom Brady hump, in my opinion.
Yeah. This is easier said than done. No matter how great you are.
So. Nicky Foles. I mean, just as sure as Brady doesn't play the NFC East, he's all right in the Super Bowl. That's why he's playing in the NFC.
Yeah.
He moved there. So, So, what'd you do last Saturday, Ironhead, from about noon to 4, other than yell at your television and scream at your television and throw a grenade at it?
Yeah, it was. Yes, sadly, at the end of the day,
our first prediction came true. And that's sad.
Great job, well done.
Good job, Keith and Ironhead. Way to go! You're fired.
Here's the thing for me about that game and this season, and I still don't know. It is obviously not working on offense, and there was a ongoing discussion with group of friends on Facebook today, which I did not weigh in on, but people are like, Sean Clifford's coming back, and the other guys are like, well, Clifford's not the problem. And the guys say, well, he might not be the problem, but he's not the solution. And listen, I really don't know what it is. I don't know if the blame goes to the offensive line, to Clifford, to Yurcich, to Franklin, to the receivers, but it's crazy to me that this thing, it does not feel like it even evolved during the season. Like it's one thing to say, listen, it didn't work. Like the Steelers, I mean, it was very frustrating watching that offensive line at the start of the season. And again, I do not by any stretch of the imagination think that the Steelers' offensive line problems have been solved. But you can see from week 1 to where they were at last night that it's better, that they have figured some things out. Harris is running the ball more effectively. Not that the problem has been solved, but, and even with Ben, they figured some things out. The first half woes continue, and they drive you nuts if you're a Steelers fan, but they keep figuring things out pretty effectively in most of the second halves of these games, right? The frustrating thing for me with Penn State is it just does not feel like this thing developed. And what I was hanging my hat on, I guess, and hoping was that, a healthy Sean Clifford would lead to, a team performance like we saw against Auburn early in the season. And again, I'm not sitting here telling you I know whether it's Clifford that is to blame, and maybe it's just all around, but it's disappointing that it doesn't feel like any aspect of it significantly developed over the course of the season, right? This offensive line doesn't feel appreciably better. The running back core, again, there were some good runs, no question, in that game, but it doesn't feel appreciably better. Clifford does not feel at all better to me. From where we were at the start of the season. And, Parker Washington does feel appreciably better. I mean, it's not that there's not some things that you can hang your hat on and say, listen, yeah, this looks good for the future. But again, I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's development. I don't know if it's just the athletes. But it is very frustrating that it did not click at all this season, and it did not feel in watching that game like, okay, boy, here it comes, though. You can feel it. And, maybe it will all come together next season. I don't know. But it sure doesn't have that feeling. And if anything, that game just felt like a redux of all of the problems that were there all season long. And it's not just on the offense, obviously. Yeah. I mean, the running game just continues for opponents to be incredible. And Penn State's inability to stop the run is, again, very, very disappointing.
Yeah, but what's disappointing is you went into the game I was expecting, like we talked about Thursday, of this, that's Arkansas taking us behind the woodshed because of the amount of players we didn't have playing and we didn't have the offensive line and this and that. So, first of all, I want to say hats off to the defensive guys that played, that stayed and played. You played your asses off. You absolutely – You did the Penn State way, in my opinion. You went out there. You were a second-team guy.
Yeah, I don't think this was
your butt off. And then, at the halftime, I'm like, all right, man. We got this going. The offense is gonna click eventually. But the defense could not handle that the whole game, especially a second-team defense. And then the offense, like you just said, it never evolved the whole season. And that game, it never evolved anything. It almost like they regressed. Like, I don't know if Arkansas was doing more on defense. We just usually games get easier for an offense because you understand what a defense is trying to do. But as the game went on, our offense got worse and worse and worse, and our defense just got worn down, and it was just it was so frustrating, like beyond frustrating.
Yeah, I also I wonder. And I agree with you. I don't think this was a team that gave up in Penn State. But it felt, and listen, this is dangerous territory when you're trying to, all right, let's get into the mind of a team. I don't think there's any question Arkansas wanted to be there, and this game was meaningful to them. Again, I don't think Penn State went out there and laid down or that this was meaningless to them, but I don't think Penn State wanted this the way Arkansas did. And the question for me was, okay, as the game progressed, would you be able – because I think the same thing could be said as, again, we're at Quaker Steak and Lube. We're watching the replay on the Big Ten Network of the Ohio State-Utah Rose Bowl. I don't think there's any question. Utah, going into that game, this game meant more to them in that program than it did to Ohio State, right? Ohio State is as great as it is to be in the Rose Bowl. That's not where their aspiration was, and they were disappointed to be there. And I think the fact that Ohio State was able to overcome that and prevail in that game, again, I have a whole lot of respect for the way those kids were able to persevere and rally. And listen, it's obviously a tremendously talented football team, but I think Penn State is a very talented football team, and it's just disappointing to me that they weren't able to rise to the occasion. I was pleasantly surprised with the way the first half kind of evolved, as you were saying, but just disappointed that Penn State wasn't able to find a way to finish that thing off. And you could just see how important that game was to Arkansas. And I just don't think it was as important to Penn State. And I don't know. I'm not as optimistic as I normally am going into any season right now as we look at Penn State going into next year. But I'm not necessarily pessimistic. I really don't know what to make of things right now. And I guess I just want to see how it plays out. I'm almost done trying to project or predict. And as we keep talking about, Goon, part of this is going to be this offseason is critical in terms of a bunch of things. One, if you're Penn State, what you need to be the continued maturation and improvement and consistency from Sean Clifford going into next season, first and foremost. But I also do think they need to really sit down and evaluate top to bottom how this thing is developing. And again, I've mentioned this before, and people think I know something that I don't, and I'm not trying to imply that I do, but I'm telling you, from the outside looking in, I do think the strength and conditioning program needs to at least be evaluated. That there is something that is happening or not happening with the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen that are here. I mean, the best defensive lineman was a transfer, right? Who did most of his development at Temple. And again, I truly am not sitting here telling you that I know anything that I don't, because I don't have any idea what the program is that they're using right now, and I don't have any idea if maybe it's the exact same program that Alabama and Georgia are using. I have no idea. What I'm telling you is I'm watching the Ohio States and the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world, and that their line play is up here, and Penn State's isn't even at that next tier. Like, it is down, and I don't think it's just the recruiting. I mean, that might be part of it, but there's something going on here with either technique or development
technique
that needs to change, right? Like, it just feels, and again, I'm admittedly talking about something that I don't know, but I know enough that I'm watching, even Michigan, and there is something that needs to change here in that regard. And, this offseason is critical in terms of as it is always going to be from here moving forward, in terms of the transfer portal and keeping the guys that you need to be here next year, and they're going to have to get some key pieces in here if this team is going to contend for a Big Ten title or anything like it next year. Like, this roster as it's currently comprised, even with the terrific freshman class, you can't count on a freshman class to come in and just flip the switch and turn your program around. So they've got to find some other pieces that fit and can elevate next year. And to me, this upcoming year, and I think I've said this before, I don't know what it is Penn State needs from it, but it needs significant progress. And again, I don't know record-wise whether that means 9-3 or 10-2. I know it can't be another 5-loss season, but it needs to be a good feeling coming out of next season that, okay, yep, by God, this thing is getting closer to where it was from 2016 through 2019 than where it's been the last two seasons. And I don't know right now. Like, I just don't have a strong feeling one way or the other of where this thing is headed. Again, I love the fact that they were able to keep that class together. I like the fact that Clifford is coming back. I do think that's a good thing overall for the program. But, man, right now, I have no idea whether this is like a 6-6 type of team next year, or if it has any type of potential to be a 10-2 or 11-1 type of team. I have no idea.
The meltdown midseason after the Iowa and Illinois game is just what still blows my mind. It's like, why you guys are opting out of games? I mean, you should have opted out in October when you lost your second game. Like you've always said, that's the next step for this opt-out thing.
Yeah.
And that's guys, it's almost like, Neil Rudell, Altona Mirror, known him for years. He said the biggest equivalent he saw to this year's team was the 1992 Penn State team. That was my freshman year when guys, we signed up to play the Blockbuster Bowl. We had joined the Big Ten, but the Big Ten wouldn't allow us into their bowls. And then the NCAA squeezed us out, so we signed up to play the Blockbuster Bowl. So we needed to win 7 games. So we were national title guys, 11-0, won the national title. That's it, bottom line. So we lose to Miami in the sixth game of the year in 1992, and then all the seniors just mailed it in. They just didn't care about it anymore. And that's almost what it felt like this year. It's like guys just mailed it in like, okay, ho-hum, the fact that what upsets me as a former player, and that is that I watched this Ohio State game. You're getting embarrassed at halftime. You came out and you fought. You physically said, you know what, we're Ohio State. You're not going to embarrass us. You're not going to win this game. We're going to fight you. We're going to play for Ohio State. And our guys do not have that. It just seems like, okay, we lost this game. We're losing. Oh, okay, well, whatever. On to the next one. And it's just like it's too easy for a loss, in my opinion. That needs to change. Everybody's okay with losing if there's an excuse involved. I don't know. Well, we had 7 opt-outs. Who cares? Everybody else had opt-outs too. It's just too many excuses. Just go out, win. and fight. That's all I ask.
Yeah, and again, the glass half full guy will tell you that 4 of the 5 losses were to really good football teams, right? 3 really good football teams, and the Iowa game again. I'm willing to excuse because of the impact that the Clifford injury had and the way that whole thing.
If we watched 2020, we can watch those 2 or 3 game debacle there.
Yeah, so the Iowa game to me is almost just taken out of the equation. Again, losing to Ohio State, Michigan State this season is not an embarrassment in any way. All 3 of those teams, Michigan obviously had a terrific season.
12.
Yeah, Ohio State and Michigan State were both really, really good. And the Illinois game to me is the one that I still come back to, and it's just I don't want to say inexcusable because it's sports and stuff happens, but it's the one that I think really leaves you very disappointed in the team this season, right? Like that is the game that you just shake your head at. But the other side of that is with the 2020 season being taken out of the equation, that is the very much the exception to the rule here under James Franklin. I mean, generally the games that he has lost, it has been, and much to the frustration of Penn State fans, I understand, but it's been Ohio State and Michigan State largely, and other quality opponents, right? Like they and very rarely have they gotten blown out under James Franklin. So, I don't know what to. If you're trying to make comparisons,
they got to hit the transfer portal hard.
And if you're trying to make comparisons, and I don't know that it's worth trying to do it, but the concern is that this would be analogous to the 99 season where you had national title aspirations. Now, I get that this was quelled much more early in the season than that 99 team, but it felt like once the national title aspirations or Big Ten championship aspirations were gone, that this team wasn't able to regain. Again, I don't think they gave up on the season, but they weren't able to get back to playing the type of football they were early in the season. And that 99 team, obviously after the loss to Minnesota, things just collapsed, but they were able to rally and at least win the bowl game. But then again, you had 6 seasons of tough times, and that's a concern. Now, they also didn't have the recruiting class in 2000 in 99 going into 2000 that this program has coming off this season into next. And so again, I really don't know what to make of it. It's usually I at least have some sort of a feeling of, okay, well, unfortunately, I think this is how it's going to play. I have zero idea right now. I mean, I really don't. I won't be shocked if next season is just a disaster and extremely disappointing. And I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I don't know, shocked if this team is in contention for a Big Ten title at the end of next year. Because again, I think there's a lot of talent.
The biggest offseason in James's career here. I mean, this truly is. We said the same thing last year, and this is the biggest offseason, and this is the biggest offseason. I mean, you're not going to have a freshman O-lineman come in here and take over a spot on this team. That's not going to happen. You need to go out and find guys who fit your program, fit what you're trying to do. Give them a blue and white uniform and say you're coming to Penn State in the transfer portal. I mean, there's no other way to say it other than, I keep on talking about the opt-outs. And the thing, I understand. If you are a top 50 pick, I will give you every ounce of props and say, you know what, stay out of this game. There's no reason to play. But if you're not a top 50 guy, and I think that's where I'm at right now, is why did we have so many guys opt out from playing that game? And because they wanted to train for the NFL? I mean, come on. There's something wrong. There's something going wrong that these guys, they were they that committed to Coach Pry that when he left, they decided they're not going to play the game? I mean, that's just unbelievable to me. I mean, Brisker and Dotson are the only, maybe Brooks is a top 50 pick. Okay, so that's maybe 2 guys I would give the okay for. But to have 7 starters missing on your defense and overall 11 guys, I think, opted out of that game, there's something wrong. There's something not right going on here. And I want to know. Like, you want to go. We always have a very good feeling about Penn State in the offseason, going into the next season. I had absolutely no clue. I'm right with you right now. I have absolutely no clue where this team could go next year. None. They could win a Big Ten title. They can go 2-10. It's amazing.
Yeah, and listen, they've brought in high-profile coordinators, right? I am interested to see what Manny Diaz does next year and how this defense looks and responds to him, and what I think will be an aggressive mindset, at least. But the bigger question to me is on offense. And I think there's questions, personnel-wise, especially in the front 7 on defense in terms of, how is Penn State going to rise to the occasion? And are those guys going to be able to rise to the degree that they need to get Penn State in the Big Ten title hunt next season? But offensively, you've gone through... You've made 2 splash hires with offensive coordinators, and neither one. I just find it hard to believe that it's just that it's the coordinators that aren't, because they both came in with great reputations. And again, I'm not ready to throw Yurcich out because again, I don't think you can keep saying we're just going to bring in big name coordinators and for some reason it just keeps not working out at Penn State. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. So there's something, and I do think there's something to having a little stability there too. So it would be nice for Sean Clifford to have the same offensive coordinator 2 years in a row, and for this offensive system to have the same offensive coordinator. But you want to see that imagination that you saw with Joe Moorhead, and again, it wasn't there right away with Moorhead. people were questioning. I think now, we look back on it, it's like, oh yeah, no, he came in, and I remember the magic. Wow. No, the magic wasn't there until it was really the 5th game of the season. Yeah, that things really started to pick up under him, and I think that is, though, part of what you were kind of waiting, or at least I was kind of waiting this season. All right, Yurcich with this reputation and with Clifford, and I thought maybe in the bowl game again. Now they've had a couple of weeks to get ready. Clifford, presumably was healthy, looked healthy. Was running around more certainly this game than we saw in the last 7 of the regular season. But it just it still wasn't clicking, and so I don't know what the answer is. I don't know where the problems lie. I just know that there are clearly problems, and they need to be resolved, and need to be resolved in short order if this program is going to take that next step and be able to be truly competitive. And I don't mean competitive in games. I mean competing for a Big Ten title the way Penn State was from 2016 through 2019. Every year Penn State was in the mix, and the frustration was coming this close and falling to Ohio State. Well, now feel like you're taking a couple of steps back.
Absolutely.
Over the last couple of seasons. Can you take again a couple of steps forward? And again, right now, I don't know what would be satisfactory next season. It feels like probably 9-3. Going into the season is what you need to feel like this thing is at least moving substantially in the right direction, and then win a bowl game against a good opponent. To me is probably right now what I'm thinking would be okay, at least solid and getting back to where you need to be. But they're going to have their work cut out. You got to go to Auburn next year. You're, Ohio State and
open.
We'll
Purdue.
See what happens with Michigan and Harbaugh.
Open at Purdue.
Well, yeah, and that's another one that, you talk about, a difficult opening game, and then and a potential tone setter either way, right, for how that whole season could play out. Although, You never know, because we thought that was the case with the Wisconsin game this year.
It's the same show we had from last year.
And by God, they won it, and then they beat Auburn, and yep, here we go.
5-0.
Great feeling, and
Bullish.
then an injury, and man, just everything got derailed and never did get back on track, or even come close to getting back on track in terms of getting good wins over quality opponents that made you feel like, okay, this thing is back in the direction it needs to be.
Agreed, buddy. Big off season, man. Big off season.
No doubt. We'll talk a good bit about the NFL weekend coming up, and also, of course, about the national championship game with Alabama and Georgia coming up next Monday night on Thursday's show. And we will talk to you then once again from Quaker Steak and Lube here. Until then, be good and be safe.
Happy New Year.